Hello. I'm on my way to visit Owen, the oil rig. And since it's an official visit, I have to wear my official harbor master's uniform. Now, all I need now is my official cap here. And, it is winter. I'll bet it'll be chilly out there. Maybe I should wear my earmuffs instead of my official cap. No. They're not really part of my official uniform. What should I do? I know what Hank would say. See, one time Hank was supposed to do something and... Now, let me tell you that story. It was a beautiful winter day, and all the tugs were up early, full of beans and barnacles. Feeling the faraway warmth of the brilliant sun and the cool sea breeze on their faces made the tugs happy. Now, when the tugs are happy, they're always a bit noisy. "Tug of war!" shouted Theodore. All the tugs began pulling against each other with their tow ropes to see who was the strongest, blowing their whistles and shouting as loud as they could. "Can't pull me!" George called at Theodore and Hank. "Can so!" squealed Theodore with delight. "It's fun!" called Emily. "It's fantastic!" hollered Frodo. "It's noisy!" Who said that? The tugs all looked around. It was the dispatcher. "You tugboats are being very noisy," he repeated in a grumpy voice. "I was sleeping, but your loudness woke me up. From now on, I would like everyone to be quiet." And with that, the dispatcher went back to sleep. "Everyone?" said Hank. "Wow." "Shh," said all the tugs. "Oops," said Hank. He could already tell it was going to be very hard to be quiet, like the dispatcher said. Later that same day, George and Theodore set off on a special job. They had to move Owen the oil rig to the repair yard across the harbor. Now, Owen has to be moved at night. That's because he's so big. It's better if there are no other ships coming or going who get in his way. And even though the tugs were very excited about working late on such an important job, they were very quiet. "George, Theodore, can I come watch?" It was Hank hurrying to catch up. "You can come," frowned George, "but be quiet." Soon the tugs could see Owen. And that's when Hank had the most awful thought. Guess what?" he said. "Hank, please remember to be quiet," said Theodore. It was no use. Hank knew what was about to happen, and there was nothing he could do about it. You see, he remembered something about Owen, and the other tugs were just about to remember too. "Theodore, you go to the side," whispered George, "and I'll go in front. Hank, you stay beside me, and remember..." "I know," whispered Hank. "Be quiet." The tugs glided silently to their places, ready to begin moving Owen. George smiled. Everything was nice and quiet. "Hello there, tugboats!" someone roared. It was Owen, the giant oil rig. "Sure is good to see you. Yes, sirree, Bob," shouted Owen in his loud voice. Actually, Owen always talks in a loud voice. Very, very loud. "Gonna be moving me to the repair yards, huh, tugboats? Well, that's terrific. Terrific." Owen's big voice bounced off the other side of the harbor and rumbled right back at the tugs, just like thunder. "I tried to tell you," said Hank to the tugs. "Owen is very loud," frowned George. "Say, what's everyone whispering about?" yelled Owen. "The dispatcher wants everyone to be quiet, Owen," Theodore said softly as the tugs set off. "Oh!" roared Owen. "Quiet? Well, that seems great. Great. Yes, sirree, Bob. Nothing like a little peace and quiet." Well, Owen didn't say another word. The tugs were very glad that Owen had decided to be nice and quiet. "Oh, let's all go down to the squid chicken ground. There's nothing I've found like the squid chicken sound." Hank just had to laugh. Owen wasn't trying to be so loud. He just couldn't help himself. And Hank couldn't help laughing. "Hank," Theodore said hotly, "it's not funny." "Oops," roared Owen. "Forgot to be quiet again. Well, from now on, I'll be as quiet as a sea cabbage. No, I'll be as quiet as a goldfish. Up potato! Owen went right on, and the more he named things, the louder his voice got. And the louder his voice got, the louder Hank laughed. Hank, grumbled George finally, you're being too noisy. You can't watch us anymore. Hank floated sadly towards home. Now by this time, a thick pea soup fog was rolling into the harbor on the cold night air. And with the darkness coming on, it was getting harder and harder to see. Hank heard a loud sound. Oh, who's making that big noise? He wondered. It was Lily, the lighthouse, blowing her foghorn. Hank raced as fast as he could toward Lily. Lily, huffed Hank, the foghorn said we have to stop making the dispatcher said we have to stop making foghorns. Oh, Hank was so excited he couldn't speak properly. But Lily kept right on blowing her foghorn. Oh, I have to do something to make Lily listen, he thought. He made strange faces. Finally, Hank floated backwards, rattled his anchor, rolled his eyes, and went straight towards Willie's Island. Well, Lily was so worried about Hank that she stopped blowing her foghorn. Hank, said Lily, I can't stop blowing my foghorn. It's foggy out. I have to warn ships and boats away from the sharp, dangerous rocks on Willie's Island. It's my job. Now, at the very moment when Lily stopped blowing her foghorn, the tugboats were pulling Owen closer and closer to Willie's Island and the sharp, dangerous rocks. Owen let out a thunderous yawn. Well, tugboats, he bellowed. Looks like this is gonna take a while. I may as well get me some shut-eye. Sleep tight. Don't let the barnacles bite. And with that, Owen snapped off his big bright lights and went to sleep. At last, it was quieter and darker. I hope we don't run into Willie's Island, George, said Theodore, peering into the gloom. I think it's around here somewhere. Of course it's not, whispered George. We'd hear Lily's foghorn. What George and Theodore didn't know was that Lily wasn't blowing her foghorn. Hank, she said, I really must blow my foghorn. No, whispered Hank. He was so worried that Lily might start making more noise that he began to race around in a big circle. And that's when he noticed a giant dark shape. Something big was moving through the water. That's Owen, Hank said to himself. He realized the tugs were moving Owen, and in the dark, well, they probably couldn't see Willie's Island, and of course they couldn't hear Lily's foghorn warning them away from the rocks. That's because right then, Lily wasn't blowing her foghorn. Hank hurried out towards the tugs. George, Theodore, he started to say, but the tugs frowned and said, Shh, Hank. Now, Hank knew the dispatcher told everyone to be quiet, but even if he got in trouble with the dispatcher, Hank couldn't let his friends get hurt. He had to say something. Hank blew his whistle as loud as he could, and then he shouted, Stop! You're too close to Willie's Island! Lily, blow your horn! Right away, Lily began to blow her foghorn. Danger! Stay away! All the noise woke Owen, and wouldn't you know it, right there, almost in front of him, was Willie's Island. Turn! Roared George. Quickly! Yelled Theodore. Harder! Strained George. Help us, Hank! Cried Theodore. Hank moved quickly to the big rig. And pushed with all his might. We're doing it! Yelled Theodore. The tugs turned Owen away from Willie's Island, and just in time. Hooray! Cried George. Hooray! Shouted Theodore and Hank. Well, that sure was a close call, yes sirree, Bob, boomed Owen. Good thing I woke up and turned on my lights. Well, the tugs had to smile. After all, they had done most of the work. Just then, the fog lifted a little, and the tugs could see another light come on, the light from the great ocean dock. "Oh, it looks like the dispatcher woke up too," said Theodore quietly. "It must have been all our noise," said George. "Uh-oh," said Hank to himself. "I'm in trouble now." Well, sure enough, the dispatcher was waiting for the tugs when they'd finished moving Owen. "What was all that noise?" he said. "It was me, sir," said Hank quietly. "Why did you make that loud noise, Hank?" asked the dispatcher. "Well, Lily was blowing her dispatcher, Mr. Foghorn," Hank began. All his words caught in his throat again like he'd swallowed a bumper, and everything came out funny. Theodore floated forward. "I think," he began, "it was all because you told us you wanted everyone to be quiet." "Right," said George. "Lily wasn't blowing her foghorn, so we almost bumped into Willie's Island with Owen." "Until Hank warned us away," added Theodore. Well, when the dispatcher heard this, his mustache shot straight out. "Oh, my goodness me. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, I see. Oh, dear. Well, I'm afraid this is all my fault." The tugs were so surprised they didn't say anything. And then the dispatcher said an even more surprising thing. "Hank, I'm very proud of you. Good job." "You are?" said Hank. "I mean, it was?" "Oh, it's important to do what I say, all right," said the dispatcher. "But sometimes I don't always say the right thing." "You don't?" "No, I don't," continued the dispatcher. "I didn't mean you should always be quiet. I just lost my temper this morning when you were making that big noise. I made a mistake, and I'm sorry. From now on, I'll try and be more careful about what I tell you to do." "You will?" said Theodore. "I will," said the dispatcher. "Good night, tugboats, and good job." "Good night," tooted the tugs, and turned for their places at the dock. It had been a long day, and they were glad it was over. "Good night, everyone!" Big voice boomed out. It was Owen, hollering from clear over at the repair yards. Well, the dispatcher turned back to the tugs again. "Do you think you should have a special loud time?" he asked. "Right now?" said Hank. "Right now," said the dispatcher. "Good night, Owen!" roared all the tugs together. "Wow!" said Owen. "It sure is loud in this here harbor. Yes, sirree, Bob!" You know, I'm very proud of Hank, too. Somehow, he usually ends up doing the right thing, even though it doesn't always start out that way. Well, I was on my way to visit Owen. I just know my ears are going to be cold if I wear this official cap. So, I'm going to wear my earmuffs just this once. Thanks for visiting us here in the Big Harbor, and we'll see you all again next time. Something else I didn't think of. You know, with these earmuffs on, I can barely hear a thing. But I guess when you're going to go visit Owen, that's good. Yes, sir, Bob!
Theodore, he's a tugboat and a friendly tugboat too. A friendly tugboat too. Oh, Theodore likes to do the things that friendly tugboats do. Pushing and a pulling in the great big harbor, in the great big world is so much fun. So many brand new things to discover. Waking with the sun, gotta get the job done. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Bodak, Hank and George, and the harbor master too.